If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let me explain. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on all listening platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many more. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So go ahead, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hello, everybody. This is Vincent from Making It Make Sense with Isaiah, Theo, and Vincent. We want to empower our listeners with knowledge and sense of community because we're our strongest when we're united. So please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also, make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube page at Making It Make Sense ITV. Listen to new episodes every Friday and interact with us on Instagram at Making It Make Sense ITV. Stay conscious and stay lit. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Making It Make Sense with Isaiah, Theo, Vincent, and Danielle. So we got some stuff that we want to actually get into today, and it's really surrounding the fuckery that's going on in Florida and Texas, which what else is really fucking new when it comes to fucking rights, right? They're always trying to come for somebody. Like
they really are.
They're all about like always trying to come for somebody. They want to be like, oh, our freedom's this and this and that, but it's like, but you're always trying to come for certain communities. So we're gonna get in that ass and get it rolling. So first motherfucker that we're getting into is that governor down in Florida, DeSantis, and that whole new bill of don't say gay.
Gay.
Okay. Isaiah, you are no longer part of the podcast just for saying that.
Shut up.
Who's next?
It's just crazy at this day and age that this is even like a topic that we're having.
Yeah, it's so 2000 and late, really, because you know, quite frankly, I remember being in DuPont Circle in Washington D.C. and taking a picture shortly after Jerry Falwell said that one of the Teletubbies was gay. And I remember taking a picture of one of the Teletubbies, and it was like it showed up in the post, and it was just wonderful. But it's just amazing to me. Yeah, I mean, gay is good. Gay is good gay. I mean, it just amazes me that people don't have anything better to do but to talk about gay people. To me, it's the equivalent of don't say black. Don't say, Latinx. Don't say, any other population that has just had the shit knocked out of it over the last centuries. And this is just, it's getting ridiculous.
Do you guys remember back in the, I think late 70s, early 80s when teachers were getting fired for being gay and people were exposing them and outing them and they were firing professionals out of their jobs just for being gay? That this reminds me of that. I thought that we were light years away from that mentality, but obviously not. Thank you, Florida and Texas, for taking us back.
Yeah, it's like a witch hunt.
Yeah.
So, and they're always targeting, once again, it looks like these heterosexual people ain't got nothing better to do but to target and oppress and suppress LGBTQ plus people.
You know, and I don't, I guess the major question for me always is, even if I know the answer, but the major question for me always is like, why are you in our business? Don't do that. Like, just mind your
business. You don't want no one to come for your fucking guns, so stop coming for us.
Yeah.
Like, nobody asked you why you just married your second cousin. Like, nobody asked you that. So why are you I mean, am I right? No, nobody's talking about how you are. I mean, listen, do some of these senators and lawmakers want us in their homes passing judgment?
That would be the end of the fucking world.
Okay, passing judgment about what you're doing behind closed doors. And the crazy thing is, you know, like, in regards to Texas and Florida, which, listen, all right, am I saying every city or area in each of those states is horrible? No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is Who nominated the two of you to speak for the entire country or for a region, even for that matter? Like who nominated you?
It comes down to
the
that thing
nation's
where it's
capital?
it kind of comes down to that thing where I firmly believe, like, yeah, your morals. If you're like a politician or a leader of, you know, whatever group of people, yes, your morals and how you're raised is one thing, but you have to remember you're representing a whole group of people, all of your constituents. So it's like you can't just segregate certain parts to push your own agenda because that's what you believe in. You have to be representing the best and the wants of everyone that they're supposed to be their leader. And it just comes down to this bullshit again. And this is one of those, like, another fucking attack, like, bills on the community that, without going into all the details, and to be honest with you, like, this just popped up, you know, recently. So I'm not one to try to claim that I know everything about it, ins and outs. It's still how the damage that it's doing. I don't have to know every little itty bitty about it because it's a fucking bullshit bill to begin with. Like,
it's really sad. Those are great points, Vincent and Isaiah. Really great points. Just digging a little deeper into both pieces of the legislation and separating the two states, Florida and Texas. You know, I just can't believe we don't have anything better else to do. You know, we're on the verge of World War III. Folks in Ukrainian people are getting the hell bombed out of them. Gas prices are at an all-time high. We know that police brutality of Black and brown communities exists. I mean, that was a freaking lynching. Ahmaud
but let's
Arbery
stop real quick and make sure that they can't say gay.
Yeah, but let's stop. Yeah. And while we're at it, let's not make sure that Flint, Michigan has clean, healthy drinking water.
Oh yes,
where are our
oh my
priorities
God.
as a country? Where are our priorities? This is ridiculous.
You know
what's weird? That when I was reading the legislation and watching some of the news when I do capture it from time to time, they always try to go and talk about children. And I don't want my young child to be exposed or whatever. And that's bullshit. I'm a parent. And I don't have any problem that if my child is in history class and they're talking about Billie Jean King and they happen to say, hey, yeah, Billie Jean King was a good tennis player, but she was also a lesbian. And today she's married and she has a partner and so on and so forth. Yeah. Give a multi-layered description of who people are, because people are not one. And if people happen to be gay, if people happen to be trans, that is important information to know, because children, adolescents, and even adults need to understand that people come in a rainbow of colors, not just one color, not just white, not just black, not
and
just
the thing
whatever.
About it, it's not like it was like, like decades ago, like we're a technological advanced society now, connected by the internet. So what you don't share or open with, like, teaching your kids or being open with explaining how there's different people, like you're like kind of Theo just pointed out, it's like they're gonna find it out sooner or later, whether it's in person, most likely through the internet. And it's like, instead, like, especially if you're like trying to, kids are kids, teenagers are kids, if you're pointing at something like something's horrible, bad, sometimes that might even push them in the opposite direction. So it's just a really shitty thing to still even be pushed onto your kids.
The other part about it was, it seems as if in Texas, 240 pieces of anti-gay, anti-LGBTQIA queer legislation prohibiting, these kind of conversations. Of those 240 pieces of legislation, many of them are directed at trans folks. And with the issue with the trans folks is, people who are completely ill-informed, ignorant about the whole subject, haven't even cracked a book or read an article or understood what the core issues are with regards to this, is that folks are pushing back against young people, adolescents, getting hormone blockers, or specifically in Texas, hormone blockers or trans affirmative surgeries at such an early age. Now, as a trans person, I'm going to say this. I do believe that I have always been trans. I mean, I've been trans for so long, God, almost 20 years now. But I know throughout my life, I was always trans. I just didn't know. And when I reflect back on it, I personally, my own presuppositions about the whole matter is that I do believe that there is a certain age that you shouldn't really be giving children surgery.
I completely agree, Danielle, and I'm glad that you brought that up.
But and this is not to negate the previously stated.
No.
You should not be giving. But hormone blockers is a different thing. Right?
Yeah.
Hormone blockers is a different thing. So know the science about the central issue here. And from when I think about it from my own experience, even as a middle-aged 44-year-old Black trans woman, I will say this. I don't think we should give surgeries to people under 18. I just don't think
I don't think so
cool.
either.
But that's not the issue here. And
but
it should not be. Hopefully, that should not be the issue. I mean, there are trans people who do hold that we should give them surgery. I don't. But what I will tell you as a Black trans woman whose parents, namely my father, stifled who I was as a person, it caused me so much heartache in the first 20 years of my life.
Yeah.
Suicidal ideation, all kind of depression. It was horrible. And so I'm very glad about these young people and what they're doing.
I also want to add to, and I generally hold the same belief and feeling about that. I don't believe that you should be participating necessarily in a surgery before 18 personally. However, I will say this. I don't think it is my place to tell a parent, first off, because I'm not a parent yet myself, but also I don't think it should be in my hands to tell a parent that your child should not be transitioning right now. I don't think that's within my realm of decision. I don't
think it's anyone's place. I really think as a job as a parent, it's your job to create a safe, comfortable environment for your child to come forward to you. And if they come forward to you, maybe if they are under 18 and they feel like strongly about that, you have that conversation. Like, why don't we start off slowly and go into that? What I don't like seeing is when you see a little boy playing with dolls and he's 7 years old and parents like, oh yeah, my son's trans. And it's like, no, this is a little boy playing with dolls. Like, don't start labeling, let him come to that decision himself.
Right.
Like, I feel differently inside. But if you start labeling and saying that, like, there's also, that's the other spectrum kind that you were mentioning before, Danielle, that's the extremes that I don't agree with, where it's like parents, also, kids are going to be kids. They don't know what they want yet. Like, you're there to guide them and be supportive. But like any extreme things should really be taken, weigh out the options, talk to them about them, educate them about them, help them through it. And but again, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about other Texas and certain individuals in Texas,
ignorant government officials making rules for people that they don't even know. And you can hear it in these legislations. You can hear that there isn't a trans person present
at all.
You can hear it in the legislation, the way they implement these things, that there weren't no trans people consulted.
And they don't care.
No.
They absolutely get
and the sad part about it is, you're right, they don't care. And the sad part about it is Governor Abbott, who is the governor of Texas, he is a differently abled person. He's wheelchair dependent.
Yeah.
So is he? We should roll him off a cliff.
And so, you would think that would make him more empathetic.
No.
You would think that would make him more empathetic.
No,
and I do think that we need to be very careful about, he was actually the one who issued an executive order, I suppose it was an executive order, that said that those who are giving trans-affirming surgeries and treatments to their children must be investigated for child abuse. He was that one. Insane. And the judge had to issue an injunction and say, stop that right now. So I do think that we as a group here, Vincent, Isaiah, and my friend Theo, I do think that we have some general consensus regarding the surgeries at a certain age, but but I also want to be put a flag on the field, what I call a flag on the field. You'll hear me say this a lot, and I'm so grateful to be back with these gentlemen. I have enjoyed the one or two podcasts we've done up until this point. I'm looking forward. Absolutely. I'm looking forward to joining them going forward. So I do want to put a flag on the field, and oftentimes there are these hot button issues that are blown out of proportion, and they're always the tipping point for the alt-right, like for not for the people, I don't know if alt-right is a thing, but for the people who are extremely conservative.
Yeah.
Extremely conservative. And so that would be one of them, like surgeries. And I just don't think we're there yet. I understand, and this is what I want to appreciate most, and before we move on, these people are pushing the issue of gender. Gender is a social construct. Race is a social construct.
Yep.
We are all embedded. And when we get to critical race theory, hopefully we'll talk about that one day.
Mhm.
But we will
Not in
see
Florida or Texas.
people, exactly, right, Florida and Texas, the same damn stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the irony there.
When it comes to surgery, I do believe also, I don't believe that there's no 5-year-old person is going to tell me I want gender
Reassignment
surgery. Gender affirming surgery. Like, you know what, Billy or Jane or Sally, whoever the child is at the time, like, I think we need to teach people and teach parents to say, you know what, I hear you.
Yes.
And I see you and I believe you. And, let's, affirm them. Let's, talk with them. And if Billy or Sally or John, whoever is feeling this way at the age of 14 and 15, because, that's a little different at 14 and 15 and 16 than at 5 years old.
Especially because their body's going through changes and they're like, this feels even worse.
And then you can do some, some hormones or some blockers or whatever, so that these children can go through their process and be their true authentic selves, but not at 5 or 7 or 10.
Can I ask though? Sorry, Danny, but
go ahead.
I just want to ask. I guess statistically, okay. So, what is the? I guess the question would be statistically, what are the amount of parents going, okay, let's do gender affirming surgery at 5 or so years old versus the amount of parents going, okay, I'm going to verbally affirm you and I want to be your support system. And then let's visit this once.
Let's explore gender.
Right. As we go versus the amount of, and my personal opinion, and I have no problem, standing corrected if that is the case, but I don't personally think there are enough parents that are going along with gender affirming surgery before the age of 18 for there to be that level of concern.
Executive order.
That is coded. Well, we're going to call it concern. You can't see my face right now, but concern in quotes, which is actually just bigotry with a concern coat over it. But like, I personally, that's what I think.
True.
But I don't think there are enough parents participating in that prior to the age of 18, wherein there needs to be a concern, there goes those air quotes again, where there needs to be some type of executive order or some type of legislature to put some kind of stop to something, as if we are, the way it's being painted is it's as if, let's practice. Right. Let's go into these homes and stop this from happening because we're
save the children. We got to save the children.
Save the children. We're going to, and
they always put the children.
Yes.
They always want to make it seem like the LGBTQ plus agenda is trying to harm our children.
Yes.
When the LGBTQ people are just trying to be themselves and trying to be free and trying to find equity in this world. Ain't nobody worrying about your raggedy ass children. Like, relax.
And not not just for nothing either. Like the reason I feel like it's such a big deal is, once again, it's, oh no, we don't want you to infuse them with the LGBTQ plus agenda because that's so terrible. So we don't want, for me as an LGBTQ plus, as a queer man, you know what I'm trying to do when it comes to kids? I'm trying to make sure that it's not as hard for you as it was for me, as it was for my forefathers and mothers, as it was for, right? So it has nothing to do with, oh, here, let me just hand you this card. Welcome to the queer agenda. No, I'm trying to make sure that it's easier for you than it was for me, because it was definitely easier for me than it was for those who came before me.
And kind of back to what Danielle mentioned earlier, right? It's like she said, like, the first 20 years of her life was hard.
Absolutely.
And that's giving, like, think about all, like, so they're trying to push this agenda, and then all of a sudden, all the kids that will you're talking about save the children, but it's actually the opposite. All the kids that will essentially succumb to suicide and run away and possibly get just live such a hard unnecessary life because of this one push an act of that they're pushing through. Like, it's really sad.
Yeah,
But they don't care about that.
Let me just say that yeah, that's this whole indoctrination thing as opposed to advocacy thing is a bit of to Chicken Little, the sky is falling. I mean, we're hip to that. I mean, people who fight for civil rights are absolutely 100% hip to that notion. Let me also say, you're right. You're absolutely right. Vincent, you are absolutely right because not only suicide, depression, the homelessness, right? And then when we add to the mixture Black and brown folks, I mean, this is the reason why Black trans women, there is no secession. There has been no decrease in the amount of violence perpetrated towards Black trans women. Because for Black trans women, particularly in the inner city, in the neighborhoods we grow up in, the way you assimilate physically, and this is why it's tied to life and death for Black trans women. The way you assimilate, you pass. They call it passing. The way you pass is connected to your survival and your life expectancy, and that's hard shit for Black queer folks. That ain't cool, man. That ain't cool. That's some foul ass shit. And so when we see legislation like this, I take that shit to heart because they attacking.
It's encouraging all the other hate that comes with it. This other bullshit that goes along with that as well.
Hate, and they are also perpetuating this misinformation about LGBTQ plus folks and trans
Chicken
folks.
Little, the sky's falling.
Yeah, they always, and there's always there's never folks trying to sit down and clarify or try to enlighten themselves or learn nothing. It's just
or give some examples,
perpetuating the bullshit and the fuckery, which is just enough is enough. Cut it out.
What about
this is people's lives?
That's
what about whataboutism?
Whataboutism? Oh, if we start allowing trans people to use different bathrooms like that, then they're only being there with our children. It's all whataboutism bullshit. And it's show me the motherfucking facts. That's it.
This is absolutely red herrings intended to lead people away from the real truth of the heart of the issues that are being talked about. These are red herrings. And when if you hear me make a reference, Chicken Little, the sky is falling, there's this wonderful there's one for kids book where this chicken goes around saying the sky is falling, sky is falling, sky is falling. Oh my gosh! And in actuality, the sky is not falling. It's a big hoax. It's a hoax. The sky, the anxiety this chicken experienced because the chicken misperceived the sky to be falling, and he went around trying to make other people believe it too. So it's a fallacy is what it is. It's something intended to detract from the real issue of the matter. And the real issue is, I think what I do know, right, is that folks like us are advocates for these young folks, right? And the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. When you tell me the average life expectancy of a Black trans woman is 35, I know that to be true from my own personal history of bearing friends. The numbers don't lie. Even in 2022, the numbers don't lie. So I applaud Biden, and I'm a proponent of Biden just for that, on the basis of that alone.
And I always find it, so strange how it's not strange. It's strange in the way they think. It's not strange in the presentation, I guess, because it's not shocking because we see it all the time. But I always just find it so funny, for lack of a better word, that, and I'm sure we've heard this before, I could turn on a Disney movie and this 16-year-old Aurora, from Sleeping Beauty is running around the woods making out with Prince Philip, and we're watching, honestly, and or in Snow White, and I'm saying these to make a point. So
I was like, where are we going with?
Oh yeah, but trust me, we're going to a place with this. Or Snow White's stepmother, the evil queen, sends someone out into the huntsman out into the woods to cut out her heart and bring it back to her. These are children's stories, right? So it's okay for them to read these and see this, this princess kissing this prince that she met 10 minutes ago. Not betrothed to you, right? Okay. Or Ariel with her shells covering her breasts. Okay. Or
talk about over sexualization there.
Oh yeah. Or Jasmine, who's wearing, like what, like a little cloth over her tatas. Okay, like let's go. Cute outfit though, not like, but like honestly, like if we go down the
you know what I was told once, Isaiah, that is considered normal and natural. That's why it's allowed. Your homosexual, someone told me this, your homosexual nature is what's unnatural, and we should not highlight and spotlight that.
Oh, so it's totally
it's not natural for them, but it's certainly natural for you.
Exactly
no, this is what I was told by this man. And after I smacked the shit out of him, I walked away.
Good job.
When I was 17 years old, I think I was 17 or maybe 19 years old, this person told me that you are unnatural, and we don't want our children to see this unnatural thing. So it's all right for our children to see men and women kissing, and for women to be sexualized, and so on and so forth. So that's why it's okay for for Ariel to have her shell bra, and it's all right for Aurora to be kissing Prince Charming, because that is what we want to teach our children and indoctrinate them into the natural way of living, not the inappropriate, unnatural way of living.
And all of that, and I think we all say that too, to say like, this is all on the basis of, let's make sure. I really feel like a lot of the bigotry and a lot of the hatred, and a lot of the anti-queer sentiments, right? I really think that the basis of it is all in control and procreation, right? And based in, so like, okay, well, these activities or proclivities, I'm doing the air quotes again, don't lead to procreation, which don't lead to more people to put out into the world, which don't lead to more people in the workforce, which don't lead to more productivity, which don't lead to more capitalism.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of reasons.
Okay,
like bullshit reasons.
That's a very wholesome reason there, though.
Oh yeah, no, of course, but just one of the streams of this.
Yeah,
but the crazy thing about it is that you see it, like, there's so many same-sex parents that have children that end up being heterosexual. Like, there's no like basis.
Oh
it doesn't. It makes no sense.
Let's be clear. Let's be clear. There, and I want to say this because it's often a rebuttal of theirs that it's not of God. First of all, they don't even go to church. We wouldn't even know what a church looked like if it hit them upside the head, if it fell on top of them. But there is no theological basis for the exclusion of LGBT folks in the Bible. None. Right. So I would stand on that, and I would check any other theologian, and we just have to debate, till the cows come home. But there's no theological basis. I mean, and Black people, what I want to address is how we buy into white superiority and these notions of white superiority. And we will see this when we talk about the over-sexualization of people of color. But as a people of color, we often buy into the notion that white is so much better than what we are. We do it so subconsciously that we are unaware of what's happening when we say that, oh, no, da-da-da. No, still, we have a culture that says white is better. Even our language, the English language says, the colonizers' language says, it's better if you are more proficient. You can get a better job. You can get along better in the world. You can do. So I just want to point out that fallacy. I want to point out that fallacy. There's no theological basis. You're not getting past that in this room. Go pitch that to somebody who's dumb and will believe that. And also, we know that these kind of anti-trans, anti-LGBTQIA, anti-queer legislation, rhetoric, it's on the uprise, but it's also part of white supremacy.
It does correlate with one another, where it's like it's the last like attempt of kind of control, because now the boundaries being pushed through, like, you know, knowledge being more accessible. It's getting harder and harder to hang on to that sense of control. So sometimes the opposite is like go as crazy with it as possible, and you can round up some other idiotic people to support you. And that's the thing, like that's what you're running off of. Like that's your like that's what you want to be known and be remembered for, is like, oh yeah, like I tore parents away from their children and try to like say that was child abuse. Put them in a foster system where no one's gonna take care of them, will probably get abused and get bounced around. It's like that's the shit that no one doesn't even focus on. It's like, okay, you don't want gay parents adopting, or same-sex like couples adopting children, so you make a law about it. But let's let those children sit in that foster care system and be broken and not have a loving, caring, supportive home. Like, it just doesn't make any fucking sense.
Well, as we move towards our final thoughts, let me just also say this: gay is good. Gay by God. Anal sex is a pleasurable sex. It may be unnatural to some, but anal sex. And you motherfuckers say anal sex is unnatural and LGBTQIA folks are unnatural. But what about all those birth control pills you take?
That's unnatural, and that's a sin if you want to even pull that shit.
You hypocrite. That's what you are, because the vast majority of our community have used a condom. Vast majority of the American population has used a condom. That's the world
or birth
of
control.
STDs, right? Or birth control, and that's unnatural. So we're going to talk about unnatural. Let's talk about that wig you got on top of your head. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk.
Reading is fundamental.
Read.
They kill me though.
The library's open.
Because they're so quick to, let's talk about the toupee you got on top of your head.
Danielle said, let's talk about the wig.
No, but that's what it is. Like, you should be happy that I'm motherfucking gay and I'm not taking these women from you.
I mean, you know what I mean? Let's be real about it and stop treating people. And listen, people just didn't wake up one morning and say I'm gay. Gay people have always been around. Homosexual behavior happens in the animal kingdom as well. And no, we're not animals. We civilized human beings. But that's just a prime example of how biology is really a no-brainer here.
Absolutely.
And with that, we can.
The library is now closed.
With that toupee.
Oh my God, that unnatural toupee.
Well, thank everybody. Thank you all for tuning into this episode.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. It's Danielle with Making It Make Sense, and my friends Isaiah, Theo, and Vicente. Until next time.
Oh my God.
Until next time.